What's up, everybody? I'm Lawyer Vince, and welcome back to How to Convince. Today, we're tackling something that confuses almost everyone: fake apologies. You've probably heard one before. Sorry you feel that way. I guess I messed up, but you're too sensitive. Or, fine, I'll apologize if that's what you want. See, these aren't real apologies. They're manipulation wrapped in polite language. And when it comes from a narcissist, someone who craves control and avoids accountability, fake apologies are their favorite weapon. The danger is, if you can't spot the difference, you'll accept their sorry as closure, but nothing actually changes, right? You stay stuck in the same cycle, doubting yourself and wondering why the relationship feels so one-sided. But here's the good news. Once you know the patterns, you'll be able to recognize a fake apology instantly, and more importantly, respond in a way that keeps your dignity and your power intact. In this episode, I'll break it down into the 5 most common types of fake apologies narcissists love to use, my 3-step system for how to respond without taking the bait, a ready-to-go toolbox of powerful comeback phrases, and in real client stories where fake apologies showed up and how we handled them. And of course, we'll finish with our Q&A from my newsletter, including questions about narcissistic bosses, false accusations, and letting go of what people think. By the end of this episode, you'll never fall for a fake apology again. You'll know exactly how to hold your ground and protect your peace. Let's start with the obvious question. Why do narcissists apologize without really apologizing? Because for them, an apology isn't about repairing trust, it's about maintaining control. There are 5 common motives behind these fake apologies. The first, image protection. See, narcissists, they care deeply about how they look to others. If apologizing keeps their reputation clean, they'll do it, but it won't be for real. For example, they'll say, if I offended anyone, I'm sorry. Notice how it shifts the blame. The issue isn't their behavior, it's other people being too easily offended. The second reason, avoiding consequences. Sometimes the apology is just damage control. For example, they might say, okay, fine, I said I'm sorry. Can we move on now? See, that's not reconciliation. That's rushing past accountability so they don't have to face it. The third reason, control. A narcissist will actually use the apology itself as a power play. They'll act like they're the bigger person while secretly putting you down. For example, they'll say, I guess I'll apologize since you clearly can't let this go. Translation, you're the problem. Reason number 4, manipulation. See, fake apologies, they often come bundled with guilt trips. For example, they might say, sorry, I can never do anything right in your eyes. See, now you're comforting them. They've turned the tables. All right, reason number 5, they're testing boundaries. Sometimes the apology is just bait. See, they want to see if you accept crumbs instead of real change. And if you let it slide, in their mind, they learn, I can do this again, and they'll still stick around. Now, here's the trap. If you fight with them about it, they say you're overreacting. And if you accept it, they win by keeping things unbalanced. So the key is learning to spot the patterns and respond with clarity and calm authority. All right, now, here's my simple, repeatable system for responding to these fake apologies. It's a 3-step system. Step 1, recognize the pattern. Don't gaslight yourself. If it feels off, it probably is. So pay attention to what's missing. No acknowledgement, no responsibility, no change. A real apology owns what happened. Recognize the impact and offers repair. Step 2, don't take the hook. See, fake apologies are designed to pull you into defending yourself or begging for respect. Don't play that game. Keep your tone calm, your body language steady, and refuse to argue in circles. All right, step 3, redirect to clarity. The power move is to redirect the conversation to accountability. That can sound like, what are you actually apologizing for? What's going to change moving forward? Or, I hear your words, but I'll believe it when I see different actions. See, where you shift the focus from empty words to concrete responsibility, you take back control. Here are some lines you can keep in your back pocket for the next time you hear a fake apology. 1, that doesn't sound like you're taking responsibility. Can you be more specific? Translation, call out vagueness without aggression. 2, I don't want just words. What's going to be different next time? Translation, this pulls the focus to future behavior. Or 3, I appreciate the effort, but that's not an apology I can accept. Translation, calmly reject the manipulation. 4. I hear your words. I'll believe the apology when I see the change. Translation, this puts the responsibility back where it belongs, on action. And 5, silence and a steady look. See, translation, sometimes the most powerful move is letting their fake apology hang in the air. They expect you to rush in and soothe them. Don't. All right, now let me give you some real client examples because fake apologies show up everywhere, at work, in relationships, even in families. Seeing how they play out makes the pattern easier to spot. All right, the first story is about a client of mine who dealt with a half apology in their workplace. The client had a manager who said, "Sorry if you felt left out of the meeting." That's not accountability. That's shifting blame onto feelings. So we worked on this response. My client said, "I wasn't looking for sympathy. I'm asking to be included moving forward." That shifted the focus from emotion to expectation. The second story is about one of my clients within their relationship. The client's partner said, "I'm sorry, but you know how I get when I'm stressed." See, that is an excuse, not an apology. So we practiced this line. Stress doesn't excuse disrespect. I need to see change in how you handle it. That held the boundary without escalating the fight. Now, the last story for today is my client dealing with a manipulator in the family. So the client's parents would say, "I guess I can never do anything right." That's a classic guilt trip apology, right? So I worked with her and she responded with, "That's not what I said. I just need accountability for this specific situation." It stopped the parents from turning into the victim and kept the focus where it belonged. All right, now for my favorite part of the episode, because this is the part where I get to hear and respond to all of your questions in my weekly Q&A. The first question, I'm reaching out for your advice on dealing with a narcissistic manager at my job. This individual repeatedly violates the company's code of conduct and subjects my coworkers and me to unprovoked harassment. Despite these ongoing issues, management has taken no meaningful action, leaving us to be treated as if we are his subordinates rather than respected employees. Do you have any advice that could help me navigate and address the situation effectively? Look, the first step is to protect yourself with documentation. So write down dates, times, locations, and exact words whenever your manager crosses the line. Don't just keep in your head, keep a running log and save any written communication like emails, texts, or even chat messages. That way you're not relying on memory, you have evidence. The second step, when you communicate with this manager, keep it short, neutral, and professional. Don't match their tone. Don't give them extra material to twist it against you. Every time you write or speak, imagine it could end up in front of the HR or even a lawyer. So that mindset will keep you disciplined. And third, when you do escalate, lead with facts and not feelings. Instead of saying, "He's disrespectful and toxic," say, "On this specific date, he said," whatever phrase it is, in front of the team, right? Facts that make you credible. Feelings alone can get brushed off as personal conflict. And if your direct management doesn't respond, go one level higher or take it directly to HR. And even if that doesn't work, know your options. You may need to consult outside legal advice, especially if the behavior crosses into harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. But the bottom line is this: you can't control whether your company takes action, but you can control your record, your professionalism, and your boundaries. So those 3 things are your shield. Second question. What should you respond with when a person says you did something wrong, but you didn't do so? What if you don't know what the person is blaming you for? So the key here is to not panic, defend, or over-explain. See, when someone throws out a vague accusation like, "Oh, you messed this up, you dropped the ball," or "you're the reason this went wrong," see, they're putting you on the defensive without giving you details, and that is a trap. Your move is to calmly flip the burden of proof. A great first line I like is, "Can you be specific about what you mean?" See, this says 2 things. First, it forces them to clarify instead of leaving you guessing. And second, it shows you're open to a real conversation and not a blame game, right? If they can't explain, the blame collapses under its own weight. If they do explain, now you've got clarity and you can respond directly to the facts instead of defending yourself against a fog or something you don't know, right? So here's how it plays out in real life. At work, someone would say, "You didn't follow through." Your answer, "Can you give me an example of what you mean so I can address it?" Or at home, maybe a relative says, "You never help out." You answer with, "What exactly are you referring to? I want to understand." See, you notice the tone. It's steady, it's curious, but it's not combative. You're not denying, you're inviting specifics. And That's powerful because vague accusations thrive in the dark. The moment you shine a light on them, they either disappear or become manageable. The rule is simple. Never accept blame without clarity. All right? Third question. Can you offer guidance on how not to care what people think of you? It's a feature which has been an issue in my professional life, and I'm just looking for tips. This is a big one because caring what other people think is human. We're wired for belonging, right? But when it starts running your professional life, it can hold you back from speaking up, making decisions, or taking risks. So here's the mindset shift. Opinions are data, not directions. See, that means you can listen without obeying. Someone's opinion doesn't tell you more about their perspective than it does about your worth. A phrase that I like is, not all feedback deserves my energy. See, when you repeat that, it frees you up to separate helpful critique from noise. Because let's be honest, some feedback comes from mentors, coaches, or leaders who want you to grow. That's worth considering. But some feedback comes from insecure people who project their fears onto you. That's not yours to carry. So here's a few practical steps that you can follow. 1, source check the opinion. Ask yourself, does this person have the results, values, or perspectives I respect? If not, why would you give their words authority, right? 2, limit over-explaining. The more you try to justify yourself, the more power you give away. See, confident people use shorter sentences. Say, I stand by that decision, right? Or 3, anchor in your own values. Write down 3 professional values that guide you. Maybe integrity, growth, respect. See, when someone criticizes you, check it against those values. If you stay true to them, you're fine. And 4, practice exposure. Every time you share an idea or take a stand, remind yourself, discomfort is not danger. Over time, the fear of judgment loses its grip. The less you chase universal approval, the more confident you'll sound, because true authority doesn't explain itself to everyone. All right, question number 4. How do you tell the difference between healthy accountability and a narcissist just trying to blame you? This is a great question because on the surface, accountability and blame can sound similar, right? But the difference is in the tone, the focus, and the goal. Healthy accountability, it's specific. It names the exact action, not your character. It's respectful. See, it addresses the behavior without humiliating you. And it's future focused. It's about fixing the issue and moving forward. For example, the report was submitted 2 days late, which pushed back the client deadline. Let's talk about how to prevent that next time. See how it's concrete, professional, and solution-oriented? See, the goal is growth. Narcissistic blame, on the other hand, it's vague. It uses generalizations like always or never, and it's personal. It attacks who you are instead of what happened. And also, it's shaming. It's designed to make you doubt yourself or feel small. For example, you always screw things up. I can't trust you with anything. See, notice how there's no path forward, there's no clarity, it's just control and intimidation. The goal isn't improvement, it's dominance. And here's the litmus test. Does this conversation make you clearer about what to do next, or does it make you feel smaller? If it's about growth, that's accountability. If it's about control, that's blame. And once you can tell the difference, you stop defending yourself against toxic blame and start filtering for what's actually worth your energy. Okay, now for our 5th and final question. What do you do when someone apologizes but then repeats the same behavior over and over again? See, when someone keeps apologizing but their behavior doesn't change, you've got to remember, apologies are cheap, patterns are expensive. Words are easy, change takes effort. At that point, the apology itself doesn't matter anymore. You shift from listening to watching. Instead of debating their sincerity, focus on their consistency. A powerful line I like to use is, I'll believe the apology when I see consistent change. See, this does 2 things. The first, it rejects the cycle of hurt, apologize, repeat, right? And second, it puts the responsibility back on their actions, not your forgiveness. For example, in relationships, right? If your partner keeps snapping at you and then saying, sorry, I was stressed, you say, stress doesn't excuse disrespect. I need to see a different pattern. Or even at work, if a colleague keeps missing deadlines, right? But always says, my bad, it won't happen again. You say, I appreciate the apology, but what matters is the system you're putting in place so this doesn't repeat. Or even with family members, right? Say your sibling keeps making hurtful comments and then laughs it off with, sorry, I was just joking. You say, jokes don't land when they keep hurting me. I need to see you stop. The bottom line is, don't grade apologies by how convincing they sound. Grade them by whether the behavior changes, because real remorse isn't spoken, it's shown. All right, here's your challenge this week. The next time you hear an apology that feels off, don't just brush past it. Pause, ask yourself, did they actually take responsibility, or did they just shift the blame? If it's the latter, use one of the toolbox lines we talked about today. If this episode helped you, subscribe, join the newsletter, and respond to it with questions for the chance to be featured for a future episode. And drop a comment that says, real apologies only, so I know you've made it to the end. This has been How to Convince with Lawyer Vince. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you same time next week.